Good morning, everybody. It's Leo coming at you once again with a video diary entry for the book Soft Thorns by Bridget DeVoe, compilation of poetry and thoughts and inspirations and beautiful lessons learned and all of those wonderful things. So, wow, as you probably just witnessed my slight little meditative state there. Um, a lot of things kind of rumble through my mind as I sort of like reflect on the poem I'm going to read to you guys in retrospect. I actually just, read it last night and, did the writing for it and everything. And right now, currently, having done everything, I'm in a place where I can say, now that the sun has shone, now that the sun has shone. And the reason I can say that now is because last night, my state, with reading this was quite the opposite. You know, reading this piece, it's a very short piece, but reading it, just the depth of her words, even in their simplicity, they really take you someplace. And last night as I was reading it, I found myself along this dark sanded beach. There was no light present, a very starless night, no moon, to gaze upon or anything, no light source to really fix my eyes upon. My only senses, available at the time in that place was my hearing, my sound. And I could hear the ocean roaring and everything. It was quite an intense sound, because this poem took me to a place where I had to reflect on what it feels like when you've given all of your light and people have done nothing but take it for granted. It's crazy because even as I say this to you now, I think back on a snippet of something I wrote in my journal, and I don't normally share this, things in my diary too often, but just a little excerpt. It got me thinking, a lot of people desire good energy, but they've concocted yet another means to take it for granted. It bothers me that this is so, especially in today's world with the pandemic going on. But that's precisely where this poem took me. I read this empathically and kind of on a personal level too, because in some fashion, I kind of resonated with this myself. When it feels like you've been vulnerable, you've given, some of your best time and your best energy and everything, to people. But perhaps you were giving it to the wrong people. As selective as you are, in my case, you can still find yourself, drained. And if not drained, well, then you kind of come to that point of questioning, like, why does my light feel dimmer? Why do I feel exhausted? Why do I feel my energy almost depleted? And that's kind of where this poem took me, took me to a dark place, but I could hear the oceans roaring. But maybe in that place, in that solitary darkness, that was a time for me to reconnect with my deeper self, my inner self. as depicted by that ocean. And I said, as I was in that place, it's a wonder the ocean hasn't dried up. And I'm sitting here on dry land, just in pitch black. But at least the sound of the ocean still roaring and still, dancing, all across the land or what have you. It gave me some hope. And it gave me, a sound, an energy. It gave me a frequency that I can align myself with. When I feel my energy being depleted, I can always go by the ocean and feel restored and feel rejuvenated and feel refreshed and a greater sense of depth and, spirituality enfolds me when I go to this place, and I can still hear the ocean roaring and everything making its melody. But deep stuff. But to go ahead and go into the poem, it's a very short piece, and it reads, "And to you, I was just an escape. And to you, I was just an escape." Video diary entry titled, "And so, now what?" I will tell you that this diary entry, there's a lot of anger and frustration here, as depicted in the pieces that I'm going to read to you. But there's a lot of anger and frustration. And again, this anger and frustration comes from the pit of hopelessness. After you realize that, the people that you surrounded yourself by, the person you invested time in, didn't really appreciate your energy or what you had to offer, until you could no longer give it. You have to be very careful around people who use whatever relationship that, they desire with you to distract them from themselves. You got to be very careful and wise not to try to play the hero in everybody's life. You're not called to solve everybody's problems. You're not called to put your hand in every situation. Sometimes, and sometimes by you doing that, sometimes by you giving a person your time and energy, you're actually hurting them more than you are helping them. And why? Because whatever delight you're carrying, they're using that as a distraction from dealing with whatever they're dealing with inside. So the delight that you're bringing to the table, all of the, the wonder and everything that you're bringing to the table, that you're supplying, is distracting them from dealing with themselves. And hence why they're not adding anything, because they're basically leeching off of you. You have to be careful of that. They call those energy suckers or energy vampires. You have to be careful of those. And if you are a very empathetic person and a selfless person, like myself, you may have an amicable and giving nature about you. You just have to really monitor the people that are surrounding you. So that's really what my biggest takeaway from that was. Don't allow your relationship with somebody, to be a distraction from yourself. But to go ahead and dive into some of my poetry, and so now what? And again, this is Bridget asking the question, now that I'm not supplying any of this to you, okay, what are you going to do now? Almost, let me speak on a practical level. Almost that question of, okay, I may have the money to help you, pay this rent or pay this off or what have you. But you've been kind of mooching off of me. You kind of been dependent on that. And I noticed that you are very ungrateful and unappreciative and what have you. So now that I'm going to pull back and withdraw that favor that I was bestowing on you, that assistance, what are you going to do now? And hence the question, in this video diary entry titled, "And so, now what?" Now what? And my first poem, just go ahead and call them poems. "You painted me one way," subtitled, "Perhaps You Thought Wrong." You painted me one way, perhaps you thought wrong. Perhaps you thought all of my days would be filled with summer clouds and thunderous nights, wild and exotic, loud and erotic, but here we are in the darkest part of the desert land. I am, anyway. You could care less, but that's what you are by nature, selfish as can be, feeding off, leeching off my heartfelt compassion, my genuine passion to love you above and beyond, but you're lagging now and lacking, and I'm nowhere to be found. Are you proud of yourself for having feasted on a prize worthy of time, but wasted? And now having withered from your sight slowly as the flower, but my fragrance remains forever in your memory. Don't always paint things as you see them. Watch and observe for a time, for you know now, beloved, all you perceived of me deceived you. Kudos for trying, but all you envisioned, I'm much more. Bank on it, starting with your absence and my newfound happy, and all the more than I've ever been. Best wishes. You painted me one way, perhaps you thought wrong. That poem basically sirens the message that just because I've been there for you time and time and time again, and I've been loyal to you time and time and time again, doesn't mean I'm gonna stay that way if I feel like you are taking advantage of that. My loyalty only lasts but for so long. My loyalty has a limit. When I feel like there's no reciprocity, when I feel like I'm the one, doing all the giving, and I'm exhausting my effort and my time and my energy and my resources, understand that as pleasurous as it is to be there for you, I'm also paying attention to what's happening and how you're treating me. And romantically, in her case, perhaps he saw her as, an object of lustful desire, if you will. A source to fulfill a guilty pleasure, sex being that. And, Bridget, you kind of, gave him the pleasure of that, but now you're finding yourself depleted. You now feel lifeless because you've given away something so sacred and so pure, and you've given something that should have been preserved for the right person. This isn't just talking about sex, but just your time and energy, your affection even. You have to understand that no matter how much light you try to, bestow onto people's lives, some people don't necessarily want to come out of their darkness. Some people just want you to throw, to celebrate in their pity party. And they want to feed off of your energy. So all that work you've done on yourself to get where you are, they just want to feed off of that. They're attracted to it because they want to feed off of it. What we need to do in today's world, and I say best wishes trying to do this, but I try to preserve some hope, is get people, who are not only attracted to you, but are always thinking, what can I add to this person? How can you greater enrich my life outside of how enriched it already is? My life is enriched already without your being there. How does your presence further enhance that? But you thought I would always continue giving you this, luxury to leech off of me. And I probably let it happen for a minute. But now that I'm not doing these things for you, what are you going to do? Where do you stand now? So, and now what? Or you painted me one way, perhaps you thought wrong. But yes, and so now what? But yes. And the next poem, titled What Say You Now? It might be a lengthy one, it might be a moderate one. We'll see. But I'm just gonna keep on going. I got time. And what say you now? You seem to be at a loss of words for all I've just exposed to you. I disclosed in abundance all I've been internalizing for the longest. And now, darling, 'tis is my season to flourish, to nourish my heart and soul, nurture the bountiful whole of who I am, fiery, feisty and all, fragile too. But you didn't know that, especially with the essence of time, time that is valuable and not wasted, void of appreciation from the receiving end, from my web. Yes, I guess I was something like a spider, weaving wonders for you to feast off of until the time bitter famine would befall you. And now's the hour. Any last words? Never mind. Leech no longer off of mine. I love you being my main three, my primary means of action, embodying that beautiful love language called time. Now you get to spend an eternity of it without me while reflecting. Yeah, rethink your next one's words. That's all you have. Never mind, don't want them. Actions would have done just fine. Sit there now. Think about it. What say you now? I'm posing this question, and you seem to be at a loss of words. This is kind of that moment where the person you've been giving unto is now frozen in silence without so much as a I don't know to come out of their mouth. But what you just asked them has now put them in a position to self-reflect and think, wow, I really have not been appreciative. I've not been reciprocating. I've not been, loyal to them like they've been loyal to me. And now I've now pushed this person away. That's the most mindless thing you can do. That is a social danger, though. To push away people who care about you. Testing a loyal person is like the most craziest thing you can do. Because what happens when you find that that person no longer gives a crap? When that person is justified in no longer caring like they once did, and they become completely indifferent to, your needs and unresponsive, then what? And see, why do we wait until after that happens to then try to showcase some appreciation? Why do we do that? But the fact that you do that signifies your sense of entitlement, which, if you know what's good for you, you dispel that and you do it quickly and you start appreciating, and the purpose of that is to make the relationship healthy. We should want healthy relationships. None of us want toxic relationships. But yet, in today's world, people seem to thrive in that. And yet, find themselves dead inside, and it shows all the way up on the outside. Whereas those of us who are very, cognizant about who we're letting in our circle, we're actually doing fine. you know. But what say you now? You're at a loss of words. You don't even know what to say now that I'm telling you I'm not doing this for you no more. So, deuces. What say you now? And the next one. Do you miss me now? Do you miss me now? A lot of nows, but this really emphasizes the point. Do you miss me now? How about that night underneath the stars? Yes, a sky absent of them, along the shorelines, alone and pitiful, yes, precisely where you left me, stranded, without a star in sight, without an aural light, something to showcase the passion and care lingering within your heart. But this place you left me reveals all I need to know about where your heart lies and the ties you held with me. But karma doesn't rest until retribution and justice are served. Just ask the empty desert abyss, the silent kiss of my love, gone, goodbye. And no, not distant, departed, meaning done, discarded, no more. And you earned it. Sayonara, smooches. Your last kiss from me. Passionate savage, preserve that in your memory bank. Toodles. Do you miss me now? So you could feel the tension, just burring in her heart. It's basically like all the things you want to say to the person that just doesn't appreciate you. It's all of these things, and it's sad, but I just went through that recently. It's important to speak up when you feel like you're not appreciated, when you feel like your time and energy aren't appreciated in the way that they ought to be. That's the time to speak up and say something. Voice how you feel, and you see how the people you're expressing this sentiment to respond. And if there's no changes after, well then okay, go where your energy aligns. Do not allow yourself to constantly be taken advantage of, taken for granted, devalued, unappreciated. Don't always feel entitled to wear, the title underdog. Don't do that. You have gifts and you have talents and you have abilities that could change the world. And if the people you're surrounded by don't appreciate that, you need to learn to love yourself, but respect yourself all the more to then depart that situation. I have this music playing softly in the background as sort of a reminder, to take time to rejuvenate and heal. I'm not listening to sad music as I play this or angry music. No, I'm listening to music because this is the state that I'm in now. I'm just sharing my retrospective insight with you on the place I was in last night, having read this and written about it. But I could feel her tension and her anger just burring and boiling over, and it needed an outlet. You know, I always said the story underneath the story. But yeah. Do you miss me now? And my next one titled, What is she to you that I wasn't? What is she to you that I wasn't? Was she the carrot to a diamond ring? Or maybe she was the colors marked upon a flower? Or maybe even the sunshine watering them with golden wonder and splendor beyond heaven's matching? Oh yes, maybe that was what she was. Is she that now? Be honest. What is she to you? So, heavenly heartfelt love in exchange for hellfiery lust that burns and scorches, hotter than an oven bakery, but you settle for this. Thirsty and now unsettled, drying up and rotting, toasted as I speak. And see, I know, it doesn't matter now. You've chosen your fate, your destiny sealed. So long, hero, peace and harmony, love from the one who loved you and still does, silent about it now, but soulfully so, I love you. What is she to you that I wasn't? No words. Heavenly heartfelt love in exchange for hellfiery lust that burns and scorches. You're now suffering from having traded the 80% of what you got in me for the 20% of what you now have in her. I was the person who went well above and beyond for you. And, you know, let me go ahead and get on your level a little bit. I went well above and beyond for you in all capacities. I might have even given you, you know, good sex or whatever. Yeah, coupled with the other things outside of that, I gave you a space to vent, to be vulnerable and to be open and, you know, disclose those private parts of you that you wouldn't have otherwise to anyone else. I gave you a safe space to be you. I gave you a space to grow with me, but you traded me, who went well above and beyond for you. You traded me for somebody who basically saw you as nothing more than what you saw me as. Yeah, maybe for the girl you're with now, you're only good for sex. You might have a sizable penis that pleasures her, but that's all you come with. Yeah, real conversation. Your sex to her might be explosive, but that's all you have to offer. And she's probably a gorgeous girl too, but she was nothing like what I was to you. I gave you good sexual pleasure and then some. But even without the sex, I was still all that I could be to you, going above and beyond. But what is she to you that I wasn't? Give you something to think about. And the second to last one, and now looking back. All of the things I wish I would have said to you, but opted not to. I chose to subtract you from my memory instead rather than bleed lyrics, lines, and rhymes of a sad sonnet. I chose to decline even the very thought of you. Those nights underneath the stars, thunder roars there now. Every time they try to sneak a peek, for I'm reminded of what your heart was to me before you fizzled. I knew you were too good to be true. Yeah, I knew you were too good, too glorious, too galler-endowed to be true. Embellishing to the eyes, fleeting a wonder to the soul, and the absence of stars upon this night prove that. I consider it a blank slate. A blank slate. A blank slate. No more sleepless nights. No more, my love, as I once knew you, but no longer. Ah, a beautiful night. So long since I've said that and meant it, toasting to it, and now looking back. I knew you were too good, too glorious, too galore endowed to be true. Too good to be true, too glorious, too galore endowed, embellishing to the eyes, fleeting a wonder to the soul, in the absence of stars upon this night prove that. It just took me a while to see it. And looking back now, I can truly say what a beautiful night it is. A night without the reminder of what I thought you were. So this starless night has actually given me something even more wonderful in its own unique way to feast my eyes upon. Who knew a starless night would actually bring solace to me? Because now I get to really deal with myself after having distracted you from dealing with yourself. Deep. And meant it, toasting to it. So this starless night, I can actually toast to this. And looking back, and these are all of the things that I did not say to you that I wanted to say, but I didn't even waste my breath. It just became easier to discard you from my thoughts. I would actually have to care enough about you at this point to even write these things. But in retrospect, looking back, I wrote down all of the things I would have liked to say to you, but just opted not to do so. But it's out there. So yes, I'm looking back. And my after quote to conclude it, and now that I'm not, and now that I'm not, and now that I'm no longer a line in his poem, a color upon his art piece, a part of the portrait upon his collage, his list of concords, dignity, pride, self-love, and self-respect can have the floor. Take it away, divas, confident girls, the characters at the core of my heart, all of me, my real me. And now that I'm not, now that I'm no longer this artist taking on a project, that project being you, I have my confidence back. I have my sense of self-worth back. My self-love, my self-respect, my dignity, my pride. You know, not pride in a negative way, but things that you kind of, you kind of clap for yourself and celebrate for within yourself, the things you pride yourself on. Priding myself on the fact that I was there for you. Heck, I might have even been the girlfriend giving you wifey privileges. The girlfriend giving wifely service, which, from what I learned is, from a woman's perspective, is not a good thing. Though you mean well, it's not a good thing. If this guy loves you, he's going to treat you the right way. And he's going to reciprocate. He's going to have a sense of self on his end, and you're going to have your sense of self. You guys are going to work individually on yourselves, and then when you collectively come together, you have something just dynamic and powerful. That's the whole point of relationships. Iron sharpens iron, I once heard it. You have an iron of your own. You have gifts and abilities and things about life that you love that have cultivated a love within yourself. I have those things on my end. And when we come together, there's a mutual exchange. Is it roses and rainbows all the time? No. That's why you need time apart at times to work on yourself. And then when you come together collectively, it's something just, it's something just ecstatic. It's something explosive. But yes, my biggest takeaway from that, and to you, I was just an escape. Don't become somebody's escape from dealing with themselves. Don't allow your energy to be their escape. Allow your energy to be an additive to good energy that they already possess by themselves. Neo said it best. I'm a movement by myself, but I'm a force when we're together. Right, I'm already a movement by myself. But when we're together, because you have your sense of self, now we are a force to be reckoned with. So just some things to think about. Monitor how not only you use your time, but how others use your time. If they're not using it as wisely as you are, well, then you need to really evaluate how much time you give to that person or those people. If they show that they don't appreciate you, or what have you, then it's time to do an inventory and make alterations, where needed, where necessary. But yes, take care, be blessed, and have a great one. Best wishes and all. Blessings.